1:35 Indian Standard Time. That's the time on the clock right now. Our next session discusses the ideas on engagement with the Fintechs and Agri-techs, NABARD's experience. May we request everyone who's still networking inside to kindly step out. First up, it is my honor to call upon our moderator of the conversation. With a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about none other than the General Manager of NABARD, Shri S. Bhuvarahan. Let's give us a big, big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us. Next joining in is the Deputy General Manager of NABVENTURES Fund. We've got Ms. Deepti Helgaonkar. Let's give ma'am a warm round of applause. Thank you for joining us. May we also request the Deputy General Manager of NABARD, Srimati Inderjeet Sangwan. Let's give her a big, big round of applause. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. MD and CEO of NABKISAN Finance Limited, Mr. Srinivasan Ramesh. And the Managing Director, AgHub, PJTSAU, Dr. R. Kalpana Sastry. Ma'am, a very warm welcome. So ladies and gentlemen, this session is about engagement with Fintechs and Agri-techs, NABARD's experience, and we're elated that our moderator is here with us to curate it forward. Over to you.
Good afternoon to the esteemed audience here. The topic for the day, which we are going to do, is engaging with Agri-techs and Fintech companies here. May we have the first slide, sir, on the screen? We are going to share NABARD's experience as to how we have been able to engage with the startups, especially the Agri-techs and the Fintechs here. So, as a brief introduction, we can say as of February 2023, DPIIT has 92,683 startups registered. So that's a big number. The Indian government has launched the Startup India initiative in 2016 to support the growth of the startups with various projects such as States Startup Ranking, National Startup Awards, Seed Fund Scheme, the MARG portal for mentoring of these startups, and then the SCO Startup Forum, Shanghai Corporation Organization Startup Forum. But still we see that the per capita loan is quite low in India. While the per capita loan in India is about $1,168 US dollars, the same in Brazil is 5,114. And that of USA is a huge number, 28,900 US dollars. So that indicates there is much scope for the Fintechs to pitch in to increase the bank loan portfolio of many of the people in India who are MSMEs or startups, and whatever way it is possible. So our fast-growing digital population, the world-class digital public infrastructure, especially the data and then the mobile penetration, and the proactive regulators, these are all key tailwinds underpinning the Fintech growth in the country also. Agri-tech is another emerging area, and we have around 2,300 registered Agri-techs as per the DPIIT 2022 data. NABARD has been working with incubation centers for mentoring these startups at different levels, right from coming with a viable prototype for those in the valley of death, and also for upscaling these business startups. Both at 3 levels, we have been supporting these startups to encourage them to flourish in the startup ecosystem, which the government has fondly nurtured. So, we have got eminent panelists here who have got wide experience, who have been working in the field directly, talking with the startups, etc. So, these people are here to guide us and help us understand more about the experience of NABARD in engaging with the startups and how they have been guiding these startups also. So, to start with, we have Ms. Inderjeet Sangwan, DGM of Off-Farm Development Department of NABARD. This basically deals with the startups. Ma'am, could you please tell us how NABARD supports Agri-techs and Fintech startups from your side, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. NABARD was established in 1982 with a mandate of agriculture and rural development. Since inception, NABARD has evolved its schemes and regarding promotions and agriculture to give a pointed focus, undivided attention, and forceful direction for the development of farm and non-farm sector. As you are aware that 60% of our population is dependent on agriculture, and share of agriculture in our GDP is barely 17 to 18%. Recently, India has emerged as first or second largest producer of agriculture produce such as wheat, rice, millets, milk, so many things. And India has become a largest exporter of vegetable, agriculture and livestock products. Despite this phenomenal progress, farmers are facing many challenges such as information regarding weather, soil, government advisories, credit facilities. They are not able to get on real-time basis. Startups are providing solutions to these issues through innovations, interventions, and specific to the requirements of the farmers in real-time basis. Government of India, Startup is a flagship program of Government of India and has been launched on 16th January 2016 with an objective to provide solutions and to farmers, farm sector, and to create employment opportunities. So, as a result of efforts of Government of India, as on date, there are 92,000 startups has been registered with DPIIT, and out of 92,000 startups, approximately 3,000 are in agri startup sector. And these have been housed in academic institutions or research institutions. To align with Government of India's initiatives, NABARD has also stepped in and has supported, till date has supported 7 incubation centers across the country in North Haryana, in South Tamil Nadu, in Hyderabad, and in East IIT Kharagpur, in West, in Gujarat. So there are 7 incubation centers, and through these incubation centers, NABARD has cumulatively sanctioned an amount of rupees 63.28 crore. And these incubation centers have successfully registered more than 1,400 incubators, and 274 incubators have registered as startups with DPIIT. And these incubation centers have also helped them to engage with funders, investors, and with 283 investors generating employment for 3,755 persons. Further, they have connected to 644 FPOs, farmer producer organizations, and have generated approximately 4 lakh employment opportunities directly or indirectly. So according to Economic Survey 2022-23, agri startups could manage investments to the tune of rupees 6,600 crore from the investors, but this is merely 0.5% of the startups. Rest of the startups manage funds through pooling their own funds, loan from family and friends, and rest of the startups do not arrange funds from banks because banks are not ready to give loan. And agri startups have problem because of the volatility of this sector. So they and at this point of time, they enter in valley of death stage. To support the startups in the valley of death stage, NABARD has constituted a fund, catalytic capital fund, with a corpus of 100 crores, which has been given to startups to support them at this stage through our subsidiaries and RBICs. Till date, we have sanctioned to four agencies, one NABKISAN, AgHub, AIDEA, and MEBEV.
Thank you, madam. That was a good intro about the importance of incubation centers which are needed for encouraging the startups to flourish here. So, to talk about the incubation centers and their role and activities, we have Ms. Kalpana Sastry here, who is the MD of AgHub here. Ma'am, can you please tell us your efforts in mentoring these startups, or you call yourself as enablers rather than mentors actually, and bootstrap or grant support required for making them escape this valley of death here?
First of all, a very good afternoon, and we are talking on just about food and agriculture just at the lunchtime. So it also gives us food for thought that we are concerned about the food and nutritional security of the country, and the new problem many of us are facing, that is the climate resilience. I think today is itself is, at least for me who's coming from Hyderabad, it's an unusual day where everything is rainy. Okay, so now I am a hardcore scientist. I was trained as a scientist, as a technology builder of new technologies to look at the gaps in the agri value chain. Over the years, the transition has come only because of the call of the ecosystem that we need to also look at these technologies reaching out of the lab into the, earlier also they were reaching the field. We had a lot of scheme, and NABARD itself has been a great supporter. But I would say at this point in this part of the time, I think we should look at a different word. We are not looking for schemes. We are looking for how do we try and upgrade our young innovators who come with brilliant ideas, sometimes tangible, sometimes intangible also. But they will have something. It can be possible. And if you look at our country's way of looking, right from independence, it has been driven from the government. You know, the agriculture sector itself has been part of government. It's only in the last 2 decades, a lot of change has come. And the change has come not because we wanted it, the change has come on its own. You had a lot of young, I was just remembering one of the young boys of aeronautical engineer way back in 2012 walking when I was looking after AIDEA as an incubator, coming and saying, I have a drone. It was one of the first, it was much before the drones which had come. And those 2 young boys, I was amazed. Why don't you go in the normal way of work and get into your degree and get a job? They've stuck to it. But the challenges we faced were terrible. We didn't have drone policy. We didn't have anything. So when I ask my colleagues in the system, they want to fly the drone for testing it, they'll say yes, because I asked. But when they go to the field, no, we don't have permission. We have. What I'm trying to say is you are building innovation systems. You also have to look at other nuances in the system. Okay. So when you have, you're also in a country, right now I was in the T20 and one of our recommendations was DPI and DI. Look at digital infrastructure which can do the same wonders which has been done in the fintech, can it be translated to agriculture? And when I was chairing that session in the Think 20, our statement was loud and very clear that they have a role. However, they all come with no agricultural background. You're talking about a sector where you need to get immersed into the agriculture sector, and that's what incubators are supposed to do. We mentor them, yes, but mentoring is not just saying ha ha, hoo hoo and all. Right from pre-ideation stage, and Madam didn't, NABARD has been so gracious, we have a small fund called Bootstrap Fund, very small fund. People and young youth, I've had young farmer coming up and taking this small grant to translate his idea. So Bootstrap Fund, and so this is the incubators, I call it a broader word. We are enablers. So when we go to the fintech investors, they also look at IPs. So we, as incubators, we help them make intellectual properties because they are some of our, tickets to get the more grants. We also help in CCF, of course, the catalytic fund. There are lots to talk, but let me also, since we are talking about fintech, I disagree. Agri-fintech is a better word than fintech separate and agri-tech separate. It is technology which is driving better platforms for access to financial inclusion of all the groups, right from big industry, entrepreneurs, young startups, and FPOs, and maybe rural youth. At AgHub, we have a model, a hub, and we do innovation, little more than incubation, and 3 spokes in the 2-tier cities. So we want to build that midway, rural to urban markets and urban to. I'll stop here and then get back.
Thank you, ma'am. As you said, no, any technology without finance is zero. So we will call it agri-fintech anyway. So, so any startup which has a product will have to upscale it to a reasonable level so that they find investors in that. So a debt is an important requirement for these startups. So we have got Ramesh, who is the MD and CEO of NABKISAN here. So what type of support does NABKISAN do for encouraging these startups to go to a reasonable level of financing themselves?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a brief intro about NABKISAN before proceeding further. NABKISAN is a subsidiary of NABARD with a basic mandate of funding farmers, producer organizations. Over and above that, we do fund to agri-startups, agri-corporates, and then to MSME. MSME route is through bulk lending to NBFCs, and also we touch microfinance borrowers through bulk lending to NBFCs, NBFC MFIs. So overall, these are all our clientele base. And as I said, NABARD is our major shareholder. Apart from NABARD, Government of Tamil Nadu and all the major banks like ICICI, Canara Bank, IOB, and Indian Bank, they are also our shareholders. So coming back to Bhuvarahan sir's question of what NABKISAN as a debt funder, as a financier to startup ecosystem, especially AgTech startups, I can say to start with, any new startups, especially in the AgTech space, emerging startups, debt is the cheapest form of capital. Equity is the costliest form of capital. So once a startup having a relatively better business model, we can fund them through our catalytic capital fund support corpus we have received from NABARD. As Inderjeet madam was mentioning, we are one of the entities who are handling that corpus, catalytic capital fund. Through that, to the extent of 1 crore per entity, we'll be in a position to support the startups. It's a very, very hassle-free, affordable credit. The interest rates are sub-commercial rates, and then the collateral requirements are also very, very minimum. So any startup, because as far as we know, most of the promoters, their net worth won't permit them to give the personal guarantee also. Even if you take the personal guarantee, it won't be of that great worth to cover your loan. So we have kept our collateral requirements also to the bare minimum so that they'll be in a position to access funding support, and the interest rate is also at an affordable rate. So once they can take this debt funding at an affordable rate, they'll be in a position to substantially reduce their operational cost, and they can use it for working capital requirements and scale up their operations. So that is our intention. And the next stage, once if they can successfully use this working capital, subsequently under our normal lending program, we'll be in a position to scale up their operations through higher dosage of credit. So our way of looking at this, initially this 1 crore, subsequently in several rounds we'll be giving a multiple doses of credit at an affordable rate, and finally they should be in a position to have a demonstrated credit history so that they can access the funding from the mainstream banks. That is how we want to participate in that journey. And one more softer part is associated with this. When an entity accesses credit from a formal financial institutions, there are certain basic covenants attached to it. Basically, to instill credit discipline. So with our limited experience, we could see most of these AgTech startups, though the promoters are well qualified, technologically well qualified, what we found is they focus their energy more on technology part or the market part, exploring the new markets and all those things. And they give a very short shift to financial discipline, or I can say other aspects related to financing. So when they avail funding from a mainstream financial institution or a regulated entity like us, there is a process in place, post-sanction, post-disbursement. There will be a frequent interaction with these startups, and we'll be going through their processes, we'll be going through their records. So this will enable them to streamline and then put in place systems and procedures in place. This will help them a lot. No, because this is the starting part of their journey. So this will take them, I can say, a meaningful institution with the proper systems and controls, so that when the later part of the journey, when they knock on the doors of the venture capitalist, they will be in a position to put up a decent show, so that they'll be in a position to get a better funding support. So not only financial freedom we give in terms of lending in multiple doses of credit, we instill financial discipline also for the startups. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. As you said, credit history is very important to be built, and then the startups have to concentrate on that. So NAB Ventures, a subsidiary of NABARD, was founded in 2018 to manage the NAB Ventures fund of NABARD. We have Ms. Deepti Helgaonkar here, CEO of NAB Ventures. Ma'am, could you enlighten us on the criteria for investment and how you identify startups for investments?
Yeah. Before that, I would just like to present a brief slide, just giving you an overview of how NAB Ventures came into picture. So can I have the slide, please? So as Sir already mentioned, that NAB Ventures was... Yeah, NAB Ventures was born in 2018. So why it was born? NABARD started investment in alternative investments funds way back in 2004. And from then, we have invested in 25 odd alternative investment funds. So then in 2018, after having 14 years of experience, it was thought, why not start your own alternative investment fund? And that's how 2018 NAB Ventures was born as a fully owned subsidiary of NABARD to invest in venture capital. So that's how we have shown the origin of NAB Ventures. Yes, so what is the role and structure? So talking about the structures, we have pooled resources of 598 crores through our 14 LPs, and which we are going to invest in various startups which meet our theme criteria. So on the screen, only 2 theme criteria have been indicated relevant to the session Agri-tech, Fintech. Apart from that, we do invest in other areas of rural tech, health tech, but then we have had maximum exposure in Agri-tech and Fintech, I can say that. Then what is our preferred business model? Which companies interest us? So first, what the companies do is they share their pitch deck with us. So first we see whether it meets our theme criteria. So after meeting the theme criteria, then we would see whether the product offering is such that it is scalable, whether it has any technological advantage, so the other parallel people or startups cannot copy them. And then whether the customers are willing to pay for the product, and whether they are the customers who will come back to the same company to buy their product. So whether your customers are acting as your brand ambassadors, all these features are being seen. The most important thing is, if you're investing ₹1 today, whether you're able to get ₹100 out of it. That's what is seen first when we are investing in any startup. Then beyond that, after whether seeing that whether it's having good exit possibilities as well. So all these factors are seen when we invest in any startup. So among the fund portfolios wherever we have invested, as I mentioned, we have a total pool corpus of 598 crores from various limited partners featuring banks, insurance companies, government agencies. We have deployed almost 50% of our corpus today across 12 portfolio companies. And among the 12 portfolio companies, these are some 5 which you can see on the screen, which are pertaining to Agri-tech and Fintech. Yes, that's all I had to tell about.
Before I wrap up this discussion, one small question to Kalpana ma'am. We have been, the buzzword in this nowadays is ESG, environmental, social and governance. how do these startup stand against these norms and whether they are in a position to comply on what we can do for that? Just 1 or 2 minutes, ma'am, so that we close it there.
To be very specific, ESG is something very, very recent. I would say even put it as 2 years down the line. We've had a lot of interesting conversations coming with the tech people who are coming and talking about carbon credit, how to monetize carbon credit. And this has also been figured in the G20 engagement group also, because it's a huge area which is emerging. I must say, right at AgHub itself, we have in the last 6 months talked to about 4 startups who are talking. Sometimes we also don't know much about it, but how do you, because you're talking about monetizing the E part with farmers who are the stakeholders. How do we do that? There is a way for it. A capacity building is important, but the capacity building by the startup who are not familiar with the farmers and agri. So there the institutions like us come in. Social good. I think I'm very happy that I'm in this panel where NABARD's role in social good has always been good. So, I mean, it's always had a very good, rich history of it. So even if we adopt this innovation pathway, for one, I'm sure there are a lot of schemes called Sparsh, which is for social entrepreneurs, and agri, there's a very thin line of division between social and agtech and all.
Correct.
And the last, I fully agree, this is a big challenge for us also, the financial discipline. Yes, all of them come, like I am talking about technology, I must admit more, but we really look at it, and this is something we really have to collectively look at it. Think of not only capacity in just a training session, but there is a need to understand on a one-to-one what are the challenges they face to maintain that financial discipline. You are going to build a huge new group of human resources who are well-versed in looking at financial discipline instruments. And that's the need.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. See, we have been talking about agri-techs and fintechs and all these technologies, but where is the farmer? Ramesh, can you just mention one line about how do you connect the farmers ultimately with all these techs?
It's a good question, sir. And I think Kalpana madam has also highlighted, where is the farmers connect? In NABKISAN, we are dealing with almost 800 farmer producer companies as on date. So that translates to more than 4.5 lakh farmers. So we have given loans to them, several doses of loans. So we are in close association with them. So any AgTech who wants to participate in agri-side interventions, we are open for it. We have a farmers base of 4.5 lakh farmers. You can work with them and transform their entire business process. That is what is our request from all the AgTechs. We'll be in a position to help you out in this regard. Over and above that, once the business process is transformed and with your technological USP, if you can digitize their business process, then the visibility of cash flow, the visibility of their product will be taken to the next level, so that all the mainstream banking institutions and financial institutions will be in a position to see for themselves, believe, and then fund it. Now, what is happening is there is a small trust deficit between the mainstream financial institutions because they don't have the visibility of the cash flow of these farmer producer organizations. They don't know how they transact and whatever transactions, because they do a lot of cash transactions also. So they're not very comfortable. So with this AgTech and AgFintech comes into place, really you can transform this agri ecosystem through the farmer producer organization movement. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramesh. That is the important point. The connect with the farmers is the most important thing for NABARD actually. So a vision for NABARD as to what we look at, we want healthy startups which has good documentation, good governance principles so that they will be able to stand on their own legs and offer products to the farmers with latest technology so that and that is also offered at a reasonable rate so that farmer is able to utilize those technologies available to them. So that's the brief from our side. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the audience for having patiently heard us. Thank you very much.